This is Dan Jurgens, and if you want to have a good time, keep listening to the Krypton Report.
Jason J. Lewis, the voice of Superman on Justice League Action, and you're listening to the Krypton Report.
Hi, this is David Patrick Wilson. I played Superman, Clark Kent, in the television production of It's a Bird, It's a Plane, enjoying every minute of being right here on the Krypton Report.
Look up in the sky, the birds, the plane.
Hello, it is that time of the month again. Yep, not that time of the month, jeez. But it's time for this month's book review with Junia. As you all know, Junia is wonderful. And she puts up with me. And she has agreed to do these book readings. Now, this episode's coming out just a little bit later than we normally would have had it. That has to do with some, as addressed later in the episode, some health stuff that was going on with me. And it kind of put our recording out. But today we are talking All-Star Superman. Now, one of the good things about doing this with Junia is because she's familiar with the character a lot from me, but her own knowledge. And by picking these books, we get kind of a good view of what someone who has some basic Superman knowledge gets out of these books. Because how many times as fans are we offered, or not offered, we are asked, if you were going to give someone one Superman book to read, what would it be? And that's kind of where I went with the books that I chose. Last month, she read Action Comics 1, which was easy. It was one issue. But this one's a little much. But I am sitting here next to the lovely Junia in our matching Superman t-shirts. Hello, Junia.
Hello, Tyler.
So let's get into talking about All-Star. What, just as an overall, how did you feel reading the book?
So there's definitely some unique factors to it. But then there were a lot of familiar things as well. Things that I guess that I've heard about, or I've seen in the movies, or I've connected with the character in the past. I liked having to experience, the origin story, I guess, again, in a different way with Superman. And, also still getting connected to, I guess, the heart of who he is. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I'm excited to see what else we're going to be reading and getting into. Because I feel like there's a lot more to the character than what we received in this compilation of stories, if you will. So.
All right.
Okay, summary.
That is okay. That is your summary. And I'm sitting here, bear with me, this is a new microphone I got, and just trying to adjust some things on it. Jeez. Make sure we're getting the best we can.
I have to say, right off the bat, if it's okay if I start sharing a little bit more. One of my favorite aspects of the comics, or the graphic novel here, is actually Clark's appearance. I know that sounds kind of very minimal. But I really loved his frumpy demeanor, his clothes and stuff, which I've seen before, but not, I guess, to the extent that I see here. At one point in time, Luther even chuckles at him and calls him a little pudgy or overweight, and tells him that if he got in the gym and he actually lost some pounds, he'd probably be a halfway decent looking guy, that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So it made me laugh because you see it in the comics, you see it in the movies sometimes. I say the movies, I'm talking about all media. I'm not just talking about the movie.
Well, I mean, this is something that we talked about recently in our Clark Kent rankings is, they pointed out, the guys, that Kirk Allen did a really good job of having a suit on that looked a little bit bigger for him than his body.
I think it's a great way of disguising. I think it's a good way of I guess, brushing that part of yourself off and trying to hide it, you know?
But I mean, I mean to fumble on your
No,
words
it's
there.
okay. Go ahead.
That was one of my biggest issues with Henry Cavill's Clark in BVS, is they tailored like his outfits to him.
Yeah.
When even as Clark, he looked like a chiseled, ripped dude.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Flannel.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his Clark was literally like, he takes off the glasses. That's it. Okay? Yeah. Like, so I like that. I mean, I've said before, you know, with All Stars, one of those, I like it, but I'm not in love with it like some people are. But I like the Clark Kent stuff. Like, I like the one where I told you of Clark Kent, where he's like walking here.
He bumps into a guy and he's actually like helping him.
Yeah. Like, I think it's in. Is it in issue 1? Like,
I don't. Okay.
First of all, I love the opening page. I love the opening page of just the 4 panels, like kind of telling his story.
I mean, the artwork in this is beautiful.
The Frank Quietly artwork is wonderful.
It's beautiful. And there are beautiful aspects that are here. There are some things too that just feel like, I guess, a little bit above my pay grade, if you will, like that are kind of out there a little bit more, because there's a lot of extraterrestrial kind of vibes going on in this graphic novel. It's chock full of that, and then you have Lex stuff sprinkled in, you know. So sometimes the extraterrestrial stuff is just a little bit like not my thing. Does that make sense?
No, it totally makes sense.
I love the whole like sun aspect of things. That's not what I'm talking about. It's the other stuff that's just,
you know, it's, and this book has been said it's a love letter to the Silver Age. You know, but in the first
Silver Age being
like the 60s into like the
60s and
the 70s, where it's more sci-fi. When the comics, because the birth of the Silver Age is defined in the late 50s. Forgive me when I can't think of everything at the moment, but it was the new Flash and the new Green Lantern. So this is when we got Barry Allen and Hal Jordan coming in more science fiction based than before, and that's really what got the sci-fi era of the Silver Age. But yeah, like Clark here in the first, you know, where he helps the guy by bumping into him, and the thing falls off the train that doesn't hurt him, and
the dude gets like pissed at him, but he's like, he's doing his thing. He's seeing things.
You know, he saves the kid. See, I like that. That's my kind of Clark. Like, you know.
And Lois irritates me a little bit here and there too. And maybe that's just a part of her characterization in general. But
it's also,
I like Lois normally. So.
I do too, and I think part of it's the hard part is this is a self-contained book, so there really is no before or after.
No.
So like you kind of are dropping in, so you really, you know, this Lois where they have the the dinner and everything.
Right, where it's her birthday and like
he's like wearing the Kryptonian wear, which is basically like he's wearing a hood.
Right.
You know.
And where she's like, "You're not Clark Kent." You know? That stuff just kind of annoys me. Like she can't believe it.
Where she gets paranoid.
I don't know how she can't believe it.
Well, like she gets paranoid, and then he presents her with the costume for her to be Superwoman.
Her costume's awesome. I don't understand the belt thing quite as much, but you know.
Yeah, I was.
Her costume's very cool looking.
You know, the elixir he makes and gives her is awesome. And then you know, I love Jimmy's signal watch here. Like it straight up is a super watch.
He looks like a fanboy. I just love it. But I feel like Jimmy, to the naked eye, to people who don't know his connection, obviously, with Clark, with Superman, you know, that he would look like a fanboy to people on the outside. So I think it's kind of, I guess, cute, you know?
You know, I always like this, and they did this kind of in Smallville in a way with the idea that Lois gets powers to kind of really understand what it is that Clark goes through.
Yeah.
It's one of the better episodes of season 10 of Smallville.
But I do feel like there are certain, and maybe this is just because we're, reading comics, but I do feel like there are certain things here, like, that are created in the stories that are left hanging, and that we don't really get closure with. And then we're bouncing into the next story, but it takes you a minute. It almost jars you. Because you're like, okay, well, where are we now? You know what I mean? It's not as fluid because we're not closing things up. We're not tying them in a bow at the end.
Like in the first issue, we're kind of going a little issue by issue. You had the bioelectricity of Superman's aura that he used and pushed, and
Yeah, that was cool.
And then this whole thing right here with the time travelers of Samson and
that's where we get some confusing stuff there. Yeah.
Like,
what's his? Is it Atlas?
Is it Atlas?
I think it's Atlas and Samson. I'm fairly certain because he tries to get Lois, and he's like talking to her like being a woman of Atlas or something like that. So yeah, they both are like trying to flirt with her, I guess. I don't know. It just feels like
it's weird.
A lot in a very small space. Does that make sense?
Yes. And I would prefer the story to focus on her. Like, I don't like this part with them fighting the beast from the center of the earth, and then...
See, I actually kind of think the beasts from the center of the earth are kind of cool. And that would be an interesting thing to, like, dive into. But I know nothing about it, really. Other than the fact that, Superman somehow creates connection with them, and they, like, have, a relationship and an understanding. So, like, when he meets up with, I think, like, the leader of the center of the earth beings, he's like, oh, I'm sorry this happened, basically. Like, and they're apologizing to each other and talking about, like, how to keep the peace, basically. I would love to know more about that. I think that's more interesting than Atlas and Samson.
If I could do one thing, I would cut the whole Atlas and Samson thing completely.
It's too much.
I hate it because, first, I have a weird thing about certain, like, mythology people. Like Samson, they're definitely just making it Hebrew mythology, like, from the Bible.
Right, straight up.
Which is fine. Because he even says, thank Yahweh.
He does, yes.
And I'm like, okay, but, like, to me... All right, it's like we recently read an issue of Superman comics where Superman and Wonder Woman met up with Thor. Okay? And yes, they're Greek mythology and everyone has them. But it's like, when you think of, like, Greek mythology, you kind of think DC. When you think of Norse mythology, you think of Marvel. So it's always...
You said Thor and then Greek mythology. It's Norse mythology.
Right. So they met Thor.
Okay.
As I said,
but when you confused me for a second.
But when you think of, like, different mythologies, you think of Greek.
Right.
You think of DC because Wonder Woman's so tied to it.
True.
When you think of Norse, you think of Marvel because you have Thor. And that's why, like, at the end of Thor Love and Thunder, one of the big things was we saw Marvel's version of Hercules played by Brett Goldstein for like 3 seconds.
Yeah.
And it always was one of those like, things to me. Because the thing with Norse mythology, until I think Marvel and Thor, it's always kind of been there, and it's really a lot, but I don't think it's well known as Greek mythology.
Correct.
So when they do a lot of these mythological characters, I'm just kind of like, I don't know.
It's more well known now than it's ever been, but yeah.
It's to me, and I feel like you do the issue here. Like, I love the artwork of Superman and Lois on the moon right here.
Oh, kissing, yep. Mm-hmm. It's beautiful.
But you spend your entire time on the issue of her being Superwoman with her doing nothing with superpowers.
We see more about Samson and Atlas than we do anything with her actual powers.
And I would have liked a whole we could, if we cut them out, kept the creatures from the center of the earth, and it's Superman and Lois dealing with them together.
So if I'm honest here, if I'm very honest, I'm really trying not to come from like any kind of no political standpoints or whatever, but it almost feels like in that episode in particular, they're trying to downplay her. And it might be like a subconscious thing, but it just, like, we don't want a woman to actually show him, like, power in here.
Which is
I don't think it's necessarily a conscious thing, but we have subconscious biases we don't always realize.
We do.
You know?
We do. And I'm just thinking, like, I don't see Grant Morrison as that type of writer, but, you know, maybe, but it makes me mad.
But maybe in this time frame he was, or yeah. Anyway.
It makes me mad because you introduce this fantastical element of Lois getting powers, and then she never gets to experience much of those powers.
The thing that I feel like I'm going to say about All-Star Superman is that it totally underplays her character in general.
I think it does. So what do you think? The next one with Jimmy, like in, what do you think of this one?
I love Jimmy. I'm trying to understand the outfit and Jimmy's position.
We meet this brand new character, the Dr. Quanta, or right here, this guy that plays a large role in this, and it's, like I said, it's very self-contained. So it's like you're getting. This
is where I was like getting like, okay, what am I being dropped into? Because it felt like we shifted gears entirely. Like we did a whole 180, and I don't even know where we're at. So,
but the Jimmy turning into like Doomsday here is pretty, and I like.
I thought that was cool.
I thought that
was cool
a lot in the sense of when you go back and you read of how many, like, there's one where Jimmy got turned into a turtle in the 60s during the Silver Age. We just read about how he turned basically into Mr. Fantastic in the 90s, late 80s, early 90s. So it's like the idea of something happening to poor Jimmy and him getting turned into something, and in this case it's Doomsday.
You know, this whole run right here is very humorous to me because you're bringing that up. But, like, it's almost like all bets are off with this series or with this compilation of stories because, like, everybody turns into something or has the ability to, like, shift into something. Like, Lois shifts into you know...
The Superwoman.
The Superwoman. Then we have, you know, Jimmy who shifts into Doomsday. Then we have Lex who shifts into a version of Super Lex. You know, like, there's all of these elements that are, like, everybody's, like, trying to be, like, Superman. And really what, to me, it does... I'm a weirdo in this situation that I don't like when we have characters that are supposed to be stronger or just as strong as Superman. And I think it irritates me in a way because... And I'm not talking about, like, villains. Like, we gotta have the Doomsday. I get that. There's always gotta be... There's always an opposite, right? There always has to be an opposite energy. But, I think sometimes I get a little irritated. And this feels like this whole graphic novel is chock full of that. It's chock full of these different characters who are just as strong, if not stronger, in some ways, than Superman is.
It's an interesting thought.
Until the end, of course. Because the end shifts.
Now, this one, the gospel according to Lex Luthor part. It's probably my favorite just because I feel like this is... Because it's mainly Clark interacting with Lex. And I feel like I like this presentation of Lex. This is where we get him, like, exercising, talking about, real American muscle.
But honestly... Out of all of the stories that we go through in this graphic novel, it's the one that makes the most sense.
Yeah. And
the reason why it makes the most sense is because we're not trying to... There's nothing puffed up here. There's no fluff.
Yeah,
that's the
most
word
grounded.
I'm going to use.
Even with Parasite.
Yeah.
Which even makes sense, and it feels like it connects more to the rest of the story.
Yeah, but Parasite is very minimal in the background almost here. You know, and it's more about Lex showing off and showing Clark how he's coming into power and all of this jazz. It's, you know, he's peacocking basically the whole time. You know, and we get to see, you know, Clark be Clark.
Yeah.
And I think it's really cool because it's a different perspective than the rest of the graphic novel.
It's fun when it's Clark stuck in a situation where Clark can't turn into Superman, but he's still got to do stuff.
Yeah, because we all know. We all are sitting here like, yeah, he can take you in 2 seconds, and we're laughing about it as we're reading. But like, I don't know. It's not as complicated or convoluted as everything else.
Convolution is a term that I use a lot for comic books because I feel like some writers get so deep in convolution and lore, like, and this is, I think, a translation of the medium because, you know, I talked about recently on a podcast the Death of Superman film where Peter J. Tomasi, who is a comic book writer, a very good comic book writer, wrote the screenplay, and he took the base elements of the story and he made it more simplistic. He streamlined the Death of Superman storyline towards a very good, well-presented material compared to sometimes where it's very convoluted. But
well, one of the things that I feel like I want to say is I can understand why diehard Superman fans out there who read the comics regularly and all that jazz, or have been reading it for years, if you were to say to me, you know, All-Star Superman is the comic or the graphic novel that you need to read in order to connect with the character, I can understand why you guys would have that perspective.
I do.
But I get it. I get it because if you read through it, it's almost like an explosion of all of these different exciting things that Superman faces, and even the challenges that Superman goes through. But there's, for me as somebody who is new to reading Superman, like, this was a lot. And I think that a much simpler story that actually spoke on the character more than the bombastic energy of this graphic novel would have suited me better for my first, you know, handful of readings. You know, this is something that I feel like, as a diehard Superman fan, you would probably read down the line. But I wouldn't want this as my first thing.
Thank you. I mean,
as my second thing, it's a lot. It's a lot to read because I'm trying to catch up, and I know things about Superman before I even tap into this. So,
and that's the thing, is I feel like it is such a love letter to an era, but it's a very disorganized, yet
it's a good way of disorganized, yeah.
But yet it makes sense at the same time.
Yeah.
All right, the next chapter is where he's back in Smallville with Paul. We see Crypto. It's called Funeral in Smallville.
Yeah, and we have people coming in from the future, basically. A team of Supermen who come in disguise on the Kent farm to help harvest some crops. And it's very interesting.
Yeah, even one of them, even the fifth dimensional imp, and we have one in the bandages and everything. And then, you know, it's interesting because it's basically
the death of Pa.
Yeah, it's the death of Pa, and it's an interesting way that Pa goes here. And
Clark actually gets to have the ability to talk to Pa before he dies. Because what you realize is the man in the bandages is actually Clark.
Yeah. I was looking for the...
Which is powerful. And to be honest with you, I must say it again, Tyler. I really wish that it was a more simplified story. Because there are profound parts here that I feel like I had to, like... I'm a quick reader for the most part, but like I had to go back over it a couple of times just to make sure that, like, not that I understood what was happening, but that I got the gravity of what was happening.
Right.
That I connected to it. you know? So I feel like maybe if it was a little bit slower paced, maybe if we stripped down a couple of things, you know, that we might actually be able to connect to the story a little bit deeper. I know, I sound like I'm poo-pooing it, but I'm really not.
No, because this is a lot of the same stuff that I've said about it. Because there's parts where I'm like, oh, that's...
It's not bad at all.
You took a very hard way of getting there.
Yeah. Yeah. There are things that, as somebody who is new to this, I think that they could be better explained or better expressed. And I'm all about the depth of characters anyway. That's why I want to stay around and read something or stay around and watch something, is because I want to see, or I'm connected to the character itself. You know, that's why even when Supernatural was having bad writing after a while, I still stuck it out, because it's just like...
Because you fell in love with the character.
Yeah, exactly. So if I can't connect with the heart of a character when I'm reading something, then I'm going to be a little bit, you know, I guess judgy about it.
So the Bizarro section is my least favorite. Because, one, I cannot take reading a bunch of Bizarro speak. It gives me a headache. So being Bizarro is, you know, it says episode 7. Then episode 8 is Us to Do Opposite, where he's in, you know, Bizarro land and he meets Zimbaro. And it's heartbreaking about, you know, who he is and his life. But I just can't do it.
Yeah.
The backwardsness and, you know, it's so just, after a while, it's just too much. And, you know, the thing with this is, later on this year for our Patreon, we will be watching the animated All-Star movie. Okay? And I thought about lining it up so you read this and saw the movie, but I wanted you to read this before the new Superman film, because there was supposed to be inspiration from this, and he used this imagery before they created their own.
That's cool.
In the film. So I wanted you to have this under your belt.
Okay.
And then with the other films and stuff. But I say all that because the animated film completely ejects all the Bizarro stuff.
Okay.
And the animated film was written by the late, great Dwayne McDuffie, sorry. I'm running slow here. So the man knows his stuff and he knows what he's doing. Dwayne McDuffie, Junia, if you don't remember, we talked about. He was one of the African Americans who founded Milestone Comics in the 90s, the all-black comic company that eventually merged into Image Comics.
Oh, that's
They
awesome.
created Static Shock, who's just Static.
Shock, yep. Mm-hmm.
Who just finished Static, and Icon. You've seen Icon and Young Justice and stuff.
Right, yep, I have.
So that was Dwayne McDuffie who created that.
That's so cool.
And he wrote for the animated stuff, like TV shows as well.
That's beautiful.
But episode 9, Curse of the Replacement Superman.
Very interesting storyline, to be honest with you. And what's interesting about it is immediately, like right off the bat, I just really very much so disliked the two characters that came into play here. Like, putting Superman down, you know, basically making fun of him for not being, you know, strong like they are, or however you want to say it. Like, and I'm not talking about
Bar-El
physical strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, Bar-El and yeah, it's like,
but
it's like, I'm trying to remember her name.
This is what gets me, okay? With Kryptonians in a lot of ways remind me of Vulcans.
Oh, yeah.
Where in Star Trek, and in no way am I a big enough Star Trek person to really go deep into this, but I'll say, the idea that Vulcans were supposed to have no emotion removed.
Lilo.
Yes. And, you know, they always depict Kryptonians as being this static, very much removed from their feelings, emotion as people. And everyone from Krypton who shows up who's not Jor-El, No, I want to say that. Who's not Clark / Kal-El or Kara pretty much is a a-hole. You know?
Well, because they see themselves as like an elevated
class of people.
Right, exactly.
So here's my question is, what drives me crazy is they talk about coming to the world, they're going to rule. If I found out and I had the ability to go, like okay, let's say magically, if I crossed into the next state over,
yeah,
that we would gain superpowers and could be powerful beings. Why am I still at this state? All the times that you see things of where these Kryptonians show up and they know that they'll have powers, or they know this, why didn't Krypton just leave Krypton and invade Earth long ago, and that way everyone would have these powers to rule over the planet?
I know. Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, but if I, knew that I could have powers, I wouldn't rule over people. But
I was just about to say, you're not that kind of person.
But
yeah,
I just need to go, I'm like, I can fly. Because we all know that that's my desire is I wish I could fly.
Up and away.
But it just boggles my mind. Like,
right.
And everyone shows up and their first thing is, oh, I'm now superior. I really want to, okay, spoiler alert, I want to write a Superman story that realizes time travel, and maybe Pa Kent, somebody else from Earth, goes to Krypton in the past, and under Krypton's yellow sun, they have superpowers.
That'd be really cool. That would be really cool.
So it's the reverse of now all of a sudden, Krypton has a Superman who is actually an Earthling. And it's like the whole reverse story.
That wouldn't be hard to do at all, like in a different dimension or something like that. Like, isn't that what all comic book writers do? They thrust something into a different dimension.
It was on a different Earth.
Whatever the hell we want to do.
It was on Earth. Who gives a fudge?
Right, exactly.
But I'm just saying, like, because that always drives me insane.
But I try to understand some of the storyline here and whatnot, like, Jimmy dressing up in this outfit that he dresses up in and whatnot.
The undercover brother. Undercover brother.
He's Jimmy hilarious. Wilson. He's hilarious. But anyway, this is actually a really tragic story.
It is.
And it's what's beautiful about it. What I do love about this story, because it took me a second to actually really get into it. But this might be one of my other favorites, I guess, in the series. But it's the fact that that Cal teaches them basically what unconditional love looks like, if you will, or compassion.
Yeah.
And he's very real with them the whole time. He never wavers. He never wavers from the moment he meets them. Like, I actually genuinely care about you. Like, you're part of me. We are connected. Like, I care about you no matter what. And they didn't accept any of it, and they saw themselves as elevated, and here they are basically dying. And here he is trying to find a way to save them. And it's just beautiful because
they love each other too.
They do, and it's a beautiful connection between the two of them as well. But what I love about it is like you could see a shift in them because of the way that Cal treats them.
Mm-hmm.
And he's so very authentic here, and I think this might be one of the better parts of the entire series that shows us more of his character, of who he really is. So I like this one a lot.
I do too. And I like how at the end he puts him in the Phantom Zone to be the law and order of the Phantom Zone.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're together. I love this.
Oh, yeah.
Of the next issue, which is Never Ending.
Where he picks up the school bus and then he goes to the hospital with the freaking kids. I know.
He flies the kids to Egypt.
I have another favorite part in here, which I won't share until we get there, but
You know, but then we get into like him going to Candor.
Yeah, absolutely. Which was one of the things that the couple, Barrel and Lilo, were making fun of him, like, and angry with him because he never brought Candor back to its power, basically.
I kind of always like that.
I like that.
That he can never. He's smart. He's very smart, but he can never do everything. Like, he couldn't figure out how to enlarge Candor correctly.
Right.
You know, it's a tragedy. Like, and there's been some comics where he has and stuff like that, but you know, it's one of those that, for the most part, they always try to get Candor back.
Well, in this one, he puts him in Mars.
Do you think we'll see Candor in Superman 2025? Like, if we're in the fortress, do you think we'll get like a shot of some of the bottled
I was going to say, if anything, it would be in the background, but it's not going to be something that's.
I'm going to say yes.
Foreground.
I'm going to say it's going to be in there somewhere. There's going to be a reference to it. With just the fact that if he's pulling from the Silver Age, we got crypto and stuff.
Well, hopefully, if they're going to build on something in the future, that could be a really cool element to have.
I think, okay, not to go down a tangent, but my pitch that I made that it's not dropped yet, that people are getting as special, on my Jonathan Tyler Patrick YouTube page where I do my requel pitches, was I think a sequel for Superman and for Supergirl would be them to team up and base it off the Brainiac attack storyline for a sequel, kind of like both films come together kind of thing. But
that's cool. There's
Jimmy as Flamebird. This page I love, okay?
Yeah,
but
I've read this before. You have literally put this page in front of my face before and said, read this.
I love this, but everyone shares this so much. And this is good about saving Reagan. Because we earlier get teased about the train a few pages back right here.
Right, where her therapist is getting caught up and stuff.
Okay, and I love this. Yeah, it's great.
It's beautiful.
But there is nothing more beautiful. You take this emotion and maximize it by 10. That is what you get in J. Michael Straczynski's. It's collected in the Superman Grounded Volume 1.
Yeah.
But it is one of the most beautiful Superman saving somebody stories. I'm gonna cry. I'm over emotional since getting out of the hospital. Okay.
When you showed this to me before, I thought it was a part of like a larger storyline.
And that's the problem I have with it.
It's just a snapshot. Literally a snapshot here.
Keep talking. I'll be right back. Keep talking.
And it's, to me, it deserves more. It deserves better than that, because what a beautiful, heavy way of trying to save someone. And something that a lot of us actually would connect with, which I've talked to Tyler about this yesterday, about the importance of connecting with stories and with characters and seeing yourself in characters. A lot of us understand what mental health looks like and what mental health issues feel like, and how many times we wished that somebody like Superman would just fly up and basically tell us our value and ask us to keep fighting. So anyway, I think that this kind of a story needs more than one page, in my opinion. So.
Yep. I agree.
Also, too, I'm just gonna say this. I feel like we've been to a lot of comic book stores, right? A lot of comic book stores. And one of the overarching, I think, themes that we've connected to in these comic book stores, like when we're talking to the owners and whatnot, they'll say stuff about wishing the younger generation would get more involved in comics. I wish the younger generation would get more involved in comics. Well, how often are we writing and promoting stories that connect with the younger generation? Because, so, I don't know if you know this, but like in my marketing classes and stuff that I have taken, I've studied a lot on like demographics and what you would call what are we? We're millennials, so the one that's right next to us, I'm sorry.
Zoomers?
Yeah, Zoomers. Our Gen Zers are actually the generation that you would almost call like the resistance generation or whatever. They're the ones that are more politically minded. They go for social issues. They go for like, mental health issues and stuff like that. They're kind of our activists, if you will. So just speaking from that perspective, if we actually wanted to get the younger generations or the next generations involved in these stories and carrying on, the legacies, then we want to write stories that are going to speak, write, and promote, being the key word here. Stories that are going to resonate with them. And this is a story right here with Reagan that would resonate with them.
And I think that's probably what makes me mad is it gets undersold because it is just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 beautifully powerful panels.
Yeah.
But there's so much more that can be done. Mm-hmm. And then we step back into the fantastical elements.
I know you weren't asking me about how we can get the next generation involved, but
see, we talk about all this interdimension, and then he talks about the cube in realities and stuff, and then we tease that like there's the world out there that kind of is creating Superman. Mm-hmm. Like there's Jerry, it's cute, and Joe.
Very good, cute.
And the whole and the thing about this, like in a lot of ways, like here we have where they try to execute Lex Luthor,
right?
And I've said this multiple times. I feel like so many times the only stories of Superman that people care about are Superman's death. And this is another version of Superman's death.
I was going to say the whole thing is about him dying. The whole thing is about the fact that, we didn't even mention this in the beginning. How the solar radiation poisoning happened and he's like overloaded with, solar radiation in his cells.
So
and
he's
slowly
strong.
It's like killing his cells,
it's like
basically.
Cancer.
Yeah. Solar
I,
cancer.
Well, I mean, it's a way of giving Superman cancer, basically destroying his cells. Much like I told you, like in Joshua Williams' currently run, they gave him like the red pollution type thing or whatever. It's basically like giving Superman high blood pressure and worrying about a heart attack, and going crazy. And it's a way of just telling these stories. But he's like the strongest he's ever been because of this, and he can't. He fights the Sun Eater.
I really don't know the point of Lex's niece and all of this either.
It's it's great.
She's like one of those side characters where it's like, and maybe this is my thing. Maybe this is my thing with All-Star Superman. We spend too much time on characters that don't matter. And not enough time on the characters that do.
I agree. Because I feel like there's certain books in here that make a linear story.
Certain ones.
And then there's some that just are off, and it's kind of like chapters in a diary of Superman's last days, of him and his last trials of, like here with Luthor when he stops Lex and Lex starts to see things.
Super Lex.
Yeah, and Superman flies off to fix the sun or whatever.
And he's gone for an entire year, and Lois is like waiting around for Superman to come back, still not really believing that Clark is Superman, I don't think, but yeah.
And then, there's Jimmy Olsen with her jetpack next to Lois talking about looking up in the sun. He's up there fixing it. Then probably someone in this crowd shots, Chris Daughtry writing Waiting for Superman.
Waiting for
Superman. And then it ends, he with that idea he's now like Superman 1,000, and then the idea of the Superman project, and it's like Superman, it's like a 2.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, okay, where are they going with this? Because there's nothing really before or after this. It's just continuity.
And it's excess. I think overall All-Star Superman is enjoyable. But I think there's a lot of excess in here that does not need to be present, such as Samson and Atlas. such as Lex's niece that I can't say her name, and other little elements that I feel like take away from the storyline that's trying to come through, which is really Superman's death and rebirth.
Yeah.
And another version of his death and rebirth, if you will. So.
What would you rate it out of 10?
A 7.
Okay. I like a 10-point scale. Some people like 5, but then I feel like a lot of things just become 3s. I think it's too small of a scale to rating on an opinion.
Way too small of a scale.
Like 4 stars, 5 stars, whatever. I'm like, yeah, okay. I like a 10-point scale. I'm an IMDb person.
No, this is definitely a 7 for me. I feel like there's a lot of positives. I enjoyed it. It wasn't something that I was like, dear God, do I have to keep reading this? There were parts to it where I was like,
but it's not a page turner. It's not like, oh my God, I'm loving everything I'm reading so much. I can't put it down. I can't.
Right. And I'm a reader. I love to read.
Oh, she is.
So,
she is always in a book somewhere. Yes. Either a physical book or a digital book or an audio book, just depending on what she's got going on. Yeah. She loves her stories.
So yeah, I love being in different worlds.
Well, Junia, thank you for going through All Star.
Yeah.
Next month, I think you're going to enjoy. It's a special one for me that I love. I can't wait for you to dive into that one. And now you get to hear the rest of this episode with James and me talking. If you're listening to this on YouTube, check out the episode that's side by itself. Until next time, I'm Tyler, the Superman of Blue.
Welcome to the Krypton Reports.
With my lovely wife.
Next episode. This episode is a little different because we had our new format, and I have a really cool episode coming, but it involves a lot of people, and it's just taking a little bit more time to put together for several different reasons. So it was supposed to drop today. When you're hearing this, it was supposed to be this episode, but because we had to push it to next month, we will be reviewing more Superboy today. Which is
a lot of Superboy today.
Yeah, which is weird because we're back-to-back episodes with Superboy, but it was really the only thing that we could really move from next month to kind of cover because, I have my schedule, I have my, I'm trying to keep up on everything, and I'm very big on my schedule and just trying to do things. So, what are you gonna do?
Right.
So we're gonna kick this off.
We're just gonna keep plugging away at all of our content, past, present, and future.
So yeah. So I had a very rough week. I had a big health scare, put me in the hospital. Had to call the squad when I was at work. I'm not going to go into all the details. Some scary stuff. And I just wanted to record because it is one of the things that makes me the happiest and kind of is fun and puts me at ease because I need to do something because it's been a really hard week. So that's another reason I haven't had time to finish up some of the elements that needed to be refined for this upcoming special episode. Plus, I still got to get a couple things from some people. But anyways, that's why, we are doing Superboy again. But enough of that sad stuff. I'm still alive. I'm still here.
Well, thank Ralph for that.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it's been tough, guys. So we are going to kick off here and discuss some news because we have quite a bit of news, and I usually behind the scenes stuff I have it all listed out, but today I'm like, there's so much stuff. I have it kind of together, but there's going to be some random stuff too because I haven't had enough time to organize as much as I want. So first things first. This is just awesome. Anyone knows me knows that I love Peanuts, Charlie Brown, Snoopy. Linus is my home dog. So this little like Snoopy and Charlie as Superman and Kryptonite says, "Take me home." I love it. I just want to share it.
Yeah, that's really cute.
Other thing, the Superman toothbrush is upon us.
Yeah, a Superman spin brush.
Yep, it is upon us. I guess there will be toothpaste as well. It's an oral gel for kids, anti-cavity fluoride toothpaste. We don't really use fluoride toothpaste, so that sucks. But I found this today in the wild at Walmart, and I bought it. So I have me. That's when I messaged the group chat and said, I hope we get a Superman cereal. I came home and I was like, Junia, I might have an addiction and a problem of an impulse control. And her mom was here and she looked at me and everything. And I kind of winked at her mom and I set down the bag and she pulls out the toothbrush. And I was like, oh my gosh, Tyler.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Okay. Still have not found.
Tyler's gonna use his kid's spin brush.
Oh no, they're gonna get their own. This is mine.
Oh no, I know. I'm just saying it was a kid's spin brush. You're gonna use the kid's spin brush toothbrush. I know they had their own. You had 3 of them right there. So,
the doctor, my dentist, told me I need to get an electric toothbrush. So, surprise.
You know what? That was a great upgrade on my part, was getting an electric toothbrush as well.
Yeah, I found one I want to get. I just haven't done it yet. Other things get in the way. But I thought that was hilarious. I was like, still have not found the Old Spice shampoo yet. I have the deodorant and the body wash, and all that's left is the shampoo. I don't use the spray deodorant, so I don't have to worry about that. But calling all you Fortnite players, DC Studios is reportedly collaborating with Fortnite to have DCU skins. James Gunn is giving notes on designs. Makes sense.
Stuff like that would make me play Fortnite, running around as DC characters.
Yeah,
that would incentivize.
Dude, I'm a sucker for this stuff. I just bought a child's toothbrush for myself because it has a new Superman on it. They have me. Okay.
I know.
This was posted. Okay, so this is not from me, but this was posted on a Superman fan site that I'm part of, Collectors. Someone has spotted Superman t-shirt at Walmart. You can tell from the photo here that it's the Walmart type sticker pricing. So keep your eyes peeled. I will go and I will find this and buy about 3 of them for my children each. Last year, I bought on Walmart online. I bought just classic Superman t-shirts because I found they were they're like $3 a piece. So I bought them for my kids in like bigger sizes just because I'm like, they grow so fast. And I'm like, these kids need Superman t-shirts. So keep your eyes peeled for Superman merchandise. I'm hoping that maybe we'll get some reveal of some toys here soon because we're starting to see little things here and there. But I'd like to actually see.
I love that there's just things trickling out all over the place. You got Superman in the health and beauty area, toothbrushes. You got Superman in the clothes.
Oh, I'm on Walmart's website. Yeah, that's what I do. And the shirt is on their website. It says $8.98 for men. So it's coming, guys. It's coming. I'm going to buy me one too. And just because I like to have one that's like a good one and then one that I don't mind, like, sweating to death in.
Right.
Because I have some, I have, what do you call it? I have some that are like that. So we're just like Superman t-shirt, I don't mind like getting dirty or whatever.
Right.
But yeah, there it is. I shared
Superman t-shirts I'll wear to work and I'll wear at the gym.
Yeah, they're the ones usually. they're usually the ones I buy at Walmart and stuff that are like $5 to under $10 that I can usually easily find again.
Mm-hmm.
That I don't feel like so it's out there now. Speaking of toys, man. Okay, don't know how I feel about this. Okay, oh crap, I hit the wrong button. We've gotten a lot of, like I said, little news recently, but this Mattel and DC have agreed upon a new licensing deal starting in 2026. Now, for anyone who may not realize, I don't know if that's going to can completely negate anything special from McFarlane, like some of their DC Direct. I wonder if that'll stop like their superpower figures. But what about Spin Master? Because Spin Master has been doing a lot with DC toys, and I'm really looking forward to their line for this new Superman film. But Mattel was the one that had the licensing before McFarlane and Spin Master took it. So I'm wondering if this is going to just, and I have some of the Mattel stuff, but they really didn't get into like more of the pristine figures. So I don't know how I feel about it. Like, as someone who enjoys the toys, but also I feel like they don't have to just rebuy a bunch of stuff because they'll be like, oh, this is the Mattel version now. And I'll just
I have a number of the Mattel version. I have them in the red box. I have them in the blue box, and then they switched over to McFarlane. So
no, don't know. But all right, so that's what I got for toys. We'll have to wait and figure out because like I said, I really like the 12-inch Superman figure that I got from Spin Master. I bought it for Sayla, and then I went and bought me one because it's so detailed and such a great figure. I'm like, dang, Spin Master is up their game. So I'm kind of like, they make really good quality toys that, what do you call it? Really good quality toys that are still affordable.
Yeah, because toys are expensive now.
I mean, yeah, it's just like, holy crap.
Yeah, toys are really expensive now.
Well, the problem is that all the kids just want is electronics, apps, blah, blah, blah. But, all right, what else?
Man, I remember going to this toy store and it was like, pick a toy, and they were like $5 to $7.
Yeah, I mean,
for the
like,
cool ones.
Well, part of it's because they shifted the toy market to people like us who are older, who have more money, who are collectors, and they put so much detail in them.
Right.
That's why you need just for our listeners, our good friend Levi here. He says, if it means McFarlane is done, my action figure collecting is probably done. I was never a huge fan of Mattel DC figures.
Oh man.
And you know what? I have some, but I agree. So yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it was exciting when McFarlane took on the DC brand. They make some really awesome figures, and they make some different sizes, and the detail is on par with the top other toy makers, NECA and what was the other one?
I mean, McFarlane's always made great toys. They started doing a lot with horror toys, yeah,
and their sports figures.
So
I remember back in the day going to toy stores early in the morning when they first opened up with my with a buddy's uncle, because he was a collector. He'd look for rares and ones that were different, like they were different characters in with different packaging and stuff. It was, yeah,
good old days.
It was interesting.
We're going to jump over here to some comics. We got this coming up. The Sonic in Justice League crossover. Solomon cannot wait. I'll have to physically buy these books again. But one of the books, we have this special coming up, Superman Unlimited. That's part of the Summer of Superman. And this is the Dan Mora cover that features David Cornswet and James Gunn. And I really like Dan Mora's art.
Yeah.
And
I love that James Gunn's really going in hard on DC. You know what I mean? He's got himself animated and comic book and.
Well, I mean, I feel like he's trying
like
to make
immortalizing himself.
Right, and he's making himself a brand. Like,
yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like James Gunn is a brand.
Well, as we know, it was the brand was tarnished.
Yeah,
you know, for so many years of up and down.
But think about like he put himself in Harley Quinn, and he was in the opening credits of Creature Commandos.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then the last little bit of news for comics I have is DC announces Absolute Universe crossover, kicking off with Absolute Flash. So it looks like the Absolute Universe is going to cross over with the main universe. That's cool, but I feel like that should have been a year or two into it. Like we're not even, 6 issues, which is usually your first full arc of a comic run. We're not even 6 issues into.
Yeah. I mean, it's inevitable that they're going to cross over, and I hope at this point it's sparing, especially with the idea of just being the Flash, because we've only got the Trinity Absolute books. So the Flash is going to be the 4th Absolute book.
So they're building that world up, and before I have, unless it ends up being some sort of small mini crossover,
Yeah, I mean that's all I see it as. I mean, with a book that we'll talk about later, there's still. I mean, it's All In just started. I mean, they're still trying to figure out what happened to Darkseid and what's going on the other Earth.
The Elseworld.
The Elseworld, yes.
Yeah, I just feel like a big crossover. I need to give it some time. So before we get there.
Well, I hope so. I mean, the books are selling really well.
But I mean, usually early on, the books do sell well. I mean, I'm not trying to.
They do. But they've also been good. They've also been good, in my opinion. All 3.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if I had to rank them, Superman's my favorite, Wonder Woman's probably my second, and Batman's my least favorite.
I wouldn't even say least favorite. I'd just say,
It's coming in 3rd place.
Yeah.
Out of 3. That means it's least favorite, James.
But least favorite kind of gives it a negative connotation.
So, and I hate saying it because it's Scott Snyder writing it, but I just feel like it's just, I don't know. There's some stuff with it, but
there's still a lot to be explored with it. I haven't read issue 5.
But, I whatever's on the app. That's what I've read.
5 just dropped. I haven't read that issue yet.
So
same thing with Wonder Woman 4.
Supergirl is getting a new costume in her own new book, and these images are taken from some of the variant covers that'll be the first issue as part of the Summer of Superman. And all I can say is I like how I'm glad she's getting her own book again, but this just looks like a mismatch of the different type of suits that we've gotten. It looks like the New 52 style S almost. It's the boots that are way too high up that we've seen that are almost like legging boots, a skirt, long
They're
sleeves.
thigh-high boots, yeah.
Yeah, long sleeves. And then the big difference is now, like, it has the midriff, like before. It's like...
Yeah, from the mid-2000s.
Yeah, it's just like a mismatch of other Supergirl suits we've seen. So we have like, I don't know, it looks kind of weird. And like I said, we have two different artists here, drawings of it. But it just kind of looks like a mixed match of suits.
Well, I mean, it's just interesting, you know, her kind of going back, getting her own suit, really, where the super family's kind of been, they've
everybody
been
in the jackets.
in their jackets and stuff. I mean, I feel like the jacket thing kind of does the family stuff, but also like Supergirl's had her variations, but on her standard look for, you know, for 60 years. Like, so I think I mean, not quite, but damn near the matriarch of the supers on Earth. Like,
And we'll talk more about
she could stand up with Superman with her own uniform that stands out a little bit. I mean, like Power Girl.
and we'll talk about Power Girl a little bit later as we get into some comics.
Right. About her suit and stuff, and then
because I feel like it's always that kind of ebb and flow of building the character up and then taking them back to the status quo.
Yeah.
Because you know, one thing I had is they had this whole big movement, you know, for the super family and everything.
Right.
But what always got me is everyone got these like unique, almost matching suits, except Superman just had his traditional suit.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because it was very, they were all unique per person, but they were so similar. What's interesting now is that they are changing. Like John's got his own suit, his own style of suit without a cape. And you know,
Super
Connor's
Son?
got his kind of classic, yes, Super Son. Still John. But Connor's got his classic look. You know, Keenan's
is different, which is awesome because just big.
So Supergirl getting hers, and I mean Power Girls is still, it's more I don't know. It's less revealing as it used to be, but it's still very much Power Girl's suit. You know, and she could still stand to even if it moves further on, she could even still stand to lose the red jacket and go back to a red cape, you know? So I'm okay. I appreciate it was nice, you know, at a time, but I appreciate them having their uniqueness.
Yeah, it's amazing because like last night, like I was looking through some things and I'll bring it up later. Going through like rereading Joshua Williams' run on Superman and just like how it feels like it's been going on longer, but like when you read it straight, it goes by fast. And you're like, man, you're like, it feels like it's been so long, but it really hasn't, especially because we've been reading continually for, you know,
the Williams
a while.
Yeah. The Williamson run here is what, 22 issues now, right?
Yep.
Yeah, he started it at 1.
So it's yeah, but okay. All right, we'll keep moving here. Okay. I think that's all I have for comics. Yep. Okay. I'm trying to do the small stuff first. All right, let's do this. Ready? DC has Dark Legion, which will be an app-based game that's coming soon that you can pre-order, pre-download.
I'm gonna see what it's all about.
I did too. So, you know, it's coming. So that's something. Dark Legion, we'll check it out. Could be something fun on the app, you know. Everyone's got a device here. And then we were talking about this just last episode, but Warner Brothers has canceled the Wonder Woman game. Monolith Productions, Player First Games, and WB San Diego are also shutting down.
That's so sad. I
It
was
is
looking
so
forward to that game.
well, like I told you, we were talking about it. If they would, we were talking about it last week. If they would develop a Justice League game where each level is kind of a mini game of a certain character, maybe maybe it's like a Justice League origin game where you play a couple stages as each person, and then at the end is when the actual Justice League forms and they come together. That way you're kind of making a Wonder Woman game, you're making a Superman game, you're making a Batman game. You're testing the waters of what's working. Because there was also something I didn't get a chance, but there were talked about there hadn't been any pitches or anything for a Superman game. But James Gunn says they've talked to NetherRealm and Rocksteady about developing more DC games. Great. How about honestly, one thing I would like is just a Batman fighting game. Because there's so many characters in the Batman universe that would be fun to have in a fighting game. Where you're not like playing as the Flash and you're like, why am I not moving as fast as I should be in a fighting game?
Well, they don't do a whole lot of that in the game, but let's see, Super Pill, which is why they can compete on the same levels.
But I'm just saying, like, and make a game that people are actually interested in. Like I said, if you develop it to where, and I think part of the problem is games nowadays, there's such a high bar for games. Like I was showing Solomon, like with his PlayStation 5, how we've had such a problem because, what do you call it? It's already full.
Yeah.
Like his hard drive is full just because we don't have that many games we haven't played, but they're like 150 gig games.
Right.
And I'm showing him like this can be a big problem because this is what happens,
Yeah. I had to buy a 4 terabyte external hard drive for my Xbox so I could, just get tons of games, like as many games as I could. I mean, I still got tons of space.
It's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's there are games that have so much content. There are games that are incredibly cinematic with great stories. You know what I mean? Like there is a high bar for games,
And I think go ahead. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, and there's always such a criticism for superhero games, especially when they're like connected to big characters or movies, but there are ways to do a lot of there's different ways to do the games. It's just the fact that they take so long to develop and they're always trying to push the systems forward, and and when they're able to do so much, it just takes longer to develop the games.
Yeah, exactly.
They worked on Wonder Woman for probably the last 3 years, and now it's just not coming out.
I don't know why they just couldn't find ways to I don't know, take what they have and rework it like into the game that I was proposing.
Yeah,
it's just not
like
wasted.
I said. I think I mentioned, like, I'd be happy if they even did an Ultimate Alliance style, like the Ravensoft games, X-Men Legends, and the Marvel Ultimate Alliance, where you could just a lot of DC characters and build a team, and
I'm thinking
play in a lot of different corners of the DC universe with a lot of different types of DC characters that are all individualized, but kind of at a similar manner across the board.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, it's just
Like
it's just all.
if the thing that I saw if the thing that I saw earlier, I think at the very beginning of the year, proves to be true, they're going to be um, selling Marvel Ultimate Alliance again, like the remastered version or whatever.
Nice.
That's a lot of rights contract issues. Like it was
Mhm.
the game was the game, and then it was like remastered and everything, and then as the rights were, they had to stop selling it. So unless you got it when it was available, you can no longer get it. But then there was a deal, and that was like for like 6 or 8 different Marvel games that could be played up, like X-Men Legends or X-Men Origins Wolverine and the Deadpool game were like on that list. So
Mhm.
I bet if it proves true that Marvel Ultimate Alliance game comes back out, I bet a lot of people will be jumping on to grab that if it gets released again.
All I'm saying is, I
Because
think
it's a really good game.
we've put so much emphasis on uh, so much emphasis on these games, and like you go back and you look at how, I think the PlayStation 2 era, the Xbox was probably in a way the best because the games were good quality, but at the same time, like they weren't at the place where they're at, where what do you call it? There's such a high demand. Like you could make the game. I mean, go back and look at some of those. Like look at the Superman Returns game. I mean, they were quality, but they weren't so overly processed and done that, like we were saying, like it took up so much time to create, and then
Yeah.
it gets killed or it flops or it's glitchy and buggy. You know what I'm saying? And it comes out, and then you spend more money because you have to, what do you call it, buy all the downloadable content.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's just that does suck. That's a problem with the thing as with the uh, um, genre as a whole, games and everything. That's just how it is now, and it's a stigma, it's a issue that people have. But of course, they're going to keep playing games and everything. But yeah, I mean, they've had, especially Superman. I mean, he's had. Like Superman Returns is probably the best game Superman's had.
Mhm.
Pretty damn near. The only other one that kind of comes close to it, I believe, is the Death of Superman game.
For Super Nintendo.
Yeah. And then that was it. Like the rest of them sucked, And even Superman Returns, the big boss was a tornado. So it had some interesting concepts and everything, but I mean, yeah, with everything that's able to be done, what they did with the Batman games, if they was able to get 2/3 of that for Superman, I mean, it probably would be one of the best Superman games ever made.
I just kind of wish just remaster some of these games and put them, or just make them available to play, like on systems now. Like,
Yeah, the
way,
backwards compatibility sucks.
well, I mean, even that, like like they released the Nintendo 64 on Switch of Pod Racer. It's a smaller version of the game, but it was still cool to have. I don't know, just things like that. Like if just release the games as digital, like as they are, just so you can play them again.
Yeah.
But As we're recording, I'm always going through the news to make sure I didn't miss anything. But it's being reported, okay, that Rocksteady Studios is working on the Batman Beyond game. It may be a PlayStation exclusive. So we'll see. I'm not holding my breath on anything. So, that's just how we live, right? We're just like but okay, so moving on to the big stuff. All right, let's get sad for a second. Today, as of this recording, Lex Luthor actor Gene Hackman and his wife and their dog were found dead in their home. So Gene Hackman has passed away. That really only leaves Mark McClure
From
and Annette O'Toole, but she was only, if we're just looking as a whole, as main character type people from the Donner era of Superman films alive.
you got John Cryer.
Well, yeah. I mean, you're right. So yeah, from Superman 4, but I don't know if I really want to claim Superman 4, but this is really weird. Like, it sounds like maybe it was something like Junia said this before. I saw other people say this, that maybe there was something like carbon monoxide poisoning or something, because they were all found dead, and they're not reporting foul play.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's sad. All of them found dead. I mean, he was 95. She was in her
63.
60s. I think
Yep.
63, yeah. So.
Rest in peace, Mr. Hackman.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a sad note.
And I'm about to do for our March, we're doing a commentary watch of Superman, the 3-hour TV cut, because I haven't watched it in years, but all right, we got the sad news out of play. Let's get into some cool stuff. All right, here we go. Boom. Our first look from DC Studios, fan first, I got this today, of Hal Jordan and Jon Stewart for Lanterns. And it looks like just two worn down dudes walking down the street.
Yeah, it does.
And I'm okay with that, as long as we actually get some Lantern fighting. Now, this is a picture that was released where you can see the ring on Hal Jordan.
Yes, sir.
And it reminds me of a Green Lantern ring that I bought at Hot Topic. And Brian said it looked too much like the Ryan Reynolds ring. I was like, no, it doesn't.
No. No, that ring was totally green, and it had this alien look to it.
Right. But I like Kyle Chandler as an actor, period. And I'm looking forward to this series. I just, it could be like a hard traveling heroes type thing with the two of them. I like the idea of how Jordan be this older seasoned Lantern. And just for comparison, here is an image I pulled of the Lantern ring from Guy Gardner. I've always kind of been a fan of each Lantern. Their ring is a little bit different, suited to them. We have 3 of the possible 7 live action Lanterns now in existence, as we will be.
Yeah, just the humans.
I'm talking about just the humans. I'm talking about what we have. Well, if we count him, Alan Scott, then Hal Jordan, John, Guy, Kyle, Simon, Jessica, Sojourner, Mullins. Did I forget anybody?
Teen Lantern.
Isn't that Sojourner? Isn't that Teen Lantern also? Or are they 2 separate characters? I don't know, because I've not really read anything with them.
No, so you're talking about Joe?
Yeah.
No, that's a different character. Joe Teen Lantern is a
oh no, yeah, you're right. I was thinking of
Young Justice for a little while, but then there was, it's been a minute, I can't remember exactly, but the power that it had through the gauntlet and the pack was something unique. And I can't place where that story went.
Yep. I was getting it mixed up. Yeah, like it's just too many human lanterns.
Right. Well, like I was saying, like I said earlier, when this image came out, it's going to be an HBO show, HBO or HBO Max,
Or
either
just Max. Max,
or Max.
Max
I
is
mean,
gonna be
it's
changing its
HBO.
colors.
Yeah.
They're gonna make it like black now instead of the blue it's had.
Well, I know it's being produced by HBO, as it were, so that's what they've already said. I'm pretty sure that's what that image had on there. But they've done Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, and if you've seen any of the Dune series that
I
was
haven't
on,
watched it yet. It's on my to watch list.
they can do quality fantasy sci-fi, alien worlds and things like that. So, I mean, yeah, them walking down the street, I got no problem with that, as long as they actually do some of that look, some of that fantastical element, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want them to have to be walking and driving everywhere and just, you know what I mean, like being able to fly, being able to have constructs and things like that.
I just don't want it to be like the opening. Go back and watch the opening of Bumblebee when they're on Cybertron, and you're just like, "Oh, this is so awesome!" And it's like all the Transformers battling. It's everything that you wanted, and then all of a sudden, like B escapes and he crashes on Earth, and you're like, "Okay, and this is where we're at now."
Yeah.
So we'll eventually get to other stuff, but all right. So let's go through this. James Gunn and DC Studios had a big announcement with a bunch of stuff on here, and some of it we're just going to go through quickly, and we'll get it here. Okay, this I just found. James Gunn and Peter Safran confirmed that Matthew Orton, he wrote Operation Final and Moon Knight, is writing the script for Deathstroke and Bane, the Deathstroke and Bane film. Okay. All right, what else we got here? Hold on. DC had set a goal for their next 6 years: 2 live action films, 1 animated film, 2 live action shows, 2 animated series a year is their plan for next 6 years.
Wow, 7 projects a year.
Now that doesn't state the animated film is theatrical or if it's straight to DVD. There hasn't really been much to come for, talk about the straight to DVD market, straight to home video or whatever. So,
I do like the all in, where they're all in the same universe,
I do too.
You just do certain things in animation because your mind just accepts more with animation, so you just do certain things with animation and it just, and then it fits in the world, and hopefully you get to see that in live action at some point. I mean, like Frankenstein, or we're gonna see Flag in Superman. So
yeah,
as a first, the prime example, and of course we saw Waller in Creature Commandos, and we already seen her, and we know she's probably going to be back in some capacity in Peacemaker season 2.
So
I'd
Waller.
imagine.
Okay, so there was a bunch of other stuff that was talked about, and it's just a lot of conversation. Hold on, Jujo. But we'll get there because there's a lot of stuff to talk about. Okay, let's get this. James Gunn says Andy Muschietti will be the first to read the Batman, the Brave and the Bold script. A writer is attached, but it hasn't been publicly revealed. The film follows Batman and his son, Damian Wayne, a fiery, unpredictable Robin. But everyone passes around this image, which is Dick and Damian, which is hilarious. Still not sure how I feel about Mr. Muschietti directing, but what are you going to do? So here's
Like I said, the only thing that we can say is he did some pretty awesome Batman stuff in the
which is
last movie he did.
yeah, but then he talks bad about the Flash. I'm just like, you know what, man, don't talk bad about stuff. It gets annoying.
Oh,
You know?
yeah, we discussed that. That's just kind of crap. It's just he's trying to come up with an excuse to make himself feel better about how the movie performed.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it was many factors, not just his direction of the movie and editing and what ultimately came out in the end. A lot of factors.
Yep. So, and let's see here. What else I got? All kinds of stuff. We're getting My Adventures with Green Lantern. Official description of My Adventures with Green Lantern animated series. It will follow high school student Jessica Cruz, who has her life upended when, according to an official logline, a Green Lantern power ring falls from the sky and chooses Cruz to be its champion. Things get even worse when more debris from the Lantern's ancient space war arrives along with their alien foes. Jake Watt is executive producing, and Stephanie Gonzalez is co-executive producing. Okay, cool. So it seems like they're birthing a new DC animated universe with it's going to have to cross over at some point with My Adventures with Superman. But it just seems weird because My Adventures with Superman is a different like DC universe.
Yeah.
So,
which it could almost be an animated universe with My Adventure shows. Honestly, and we had the Green Lantern animated series, the Bruce Timm one, so which did very well. I mean, I don't want to say very well. For the people who know it, knows it was very good, but it wasn't very popular at its time. It only got one season.
yeah.
But it's a really good show. But I mean, so I feel like My Adventures with Superman, because how good that show was, with its storytelling and its animation. If it's anything similar for Green Lantern, I think it would do very well.
Excuse me. And then we're getting Starfire has officially been greenlit, serving as an origin story that follows her adventures after she uses an ancient spaceship she discovers on her home planet Tamaran to escape and explore the stars. So along the way, she'll meet Spice Baker Crush and Plant Loving Fern and more. But this, I think, is supposed to be an animated film for Starfire.
I do love the idea of bringing Crush in there.
So, and then we have Superpowers. DC Superpowers has officially been greenlit, taking place at the Alliance School for Heroes and focuses on new students Lightning, Flash, Plastic Man, Aquagirl, Green Lantern, and Terra, who level up their powers under the supervision of Principal Martian Manhunter. This just basically kind of sounds like a retool of the original shorts and movies of the DC superhero girls. Because like it was called DC Superhero Girls, but yet it had a lot of male characters in it too.
Yeah. I mean, your primary characters were the superhero girls. It's just the men were other boys at school, or primarily. Wasn't there talks of a series for like kind of like a superhero academy? That's the word I was looking for, like a superhero academy, Wasn't there talk of that idea being thrown around in DC earlier? I can't remember if that was like over there on the CW or if that was something else that they were, pitching around with at one point.
Yeah, it was something. I don't know. So check out this picture of Nicholas Holt that was released. Talk, James, go.
With the black and white shot, he looks more Lex Luthor in it. I'm really excited to see his portrayal. I just watched Nosferatu, and it's funny because just before that I watched Renfield. So then watched Nosferatu later, but he's he's growing into a very good actor. He had some corny roles coming up there, but also some really good work. And I am excited for him to play Lex Luthor. I feel like he can be. I think he's going to come off as a very intelligent person, but very menacing.
Have you watched any of The Great?
The Great? No.
You should watch a little bit. He's Peter, the ruler of Russia, who marries Catherine, who becomes Catherine the Great. Like, his range is so great as an actor. Like, Janine and I watched the first season. We're in the second season now. You should check it out. Just like I said, it's on Hulu. It's a Hulu.
Okay.
Great. He's just a great actor. Period. Okay.
Yeah.
This is exciting here. See, I told you like all kinds of like little news stuff that popped up. I mean, whole episode almost news. Crypto will be in a series of short films that are in development, described as seasonal themed shorts, 4 in total, and it's the same dog from the movie. And we will see the first one later on this year. So we're gonna get 4 little. So James Gunn is milking the dog, okay? And I've said this before. We've talked about, like, I was explaining to Solomon earlier why they use Guy Gardner for the Superman movie and stuff. I was like, I feel like James Gunn has these certain archetypes that he uses. I mean, think about it. Peacemaker has Eagly. We have Crypto. He brings in the animal to win your heart over. He knows what he's doing. So,
right.
But there was this whole big thing where they talked about the DC slate and projects. They've hit speed bumps. They're pulling back on the Authority. He says Waller's moving a little slower than he had wanted to. We talked. Clayface has a director, and I was a little shocked because I thought Mike Flanagan was going to direct, but I guess he just wrote the script. They're looking at Daniel Radcliffe to star in Clayface. But yeah, he said it's hard to get the Authority right when you're living in a world that has the boys. And I think maybe they should retool the Authority as a series to try to explore certain things and stuff like the boys.
Right. I mean, the boys would be ending with season 5, so.
But it's like you don't get to something like the boys without having the MCU or DC films. You need those.
Yeah.
To set the standard so then you can deconstruct and do stuff more with it. But I'm just saying, like, that's what he was saying, and I was never super thrilled about the idea of the Authority. I mean, that was kind of why I thought they brought the engineer in, was to help connect the Authority to the main universe.
That was my thought.
But we'll see. And I guess they are really making a Sergeant Rock movie, and I have no idea why. Like, even hardcore comic fans are like, oh yeah, that is a thing. I guess Jeremy Allen White is the front runner for Sergeant Rock. But yeah, that is something that's moving forward. I'm just kind of like, out of everything that could be done, because I see a lot of people really up in arms feeling that Wonder Woman's getting a lot of the shit into the stick. Sorry for saying that, but because we haven't got new casting for her, we haven't had anything talked about with her, because even the Amazon series, is not going to, be her.
Yeah, it's not supposed to be Diana. At least that's how it's kind of been told.
So
we've got nothing else on the project itself either. So,
but yeah, there's a lot of like little tidbits, but like that's the big stuff I've been able to pull out, because I don't know. There's always so much moving and shaking, and I just don't want to go down rabbit holes like we did before with like, oh, this is being talked about. This might happen. You know what? I need more confirmation that is actually moving forward or not. So
yeah, right now we know we've got Peacemaker coming out, Superman coming out, Supergirl,
Lanterns.
Lanterns. I mean,
All
as
right.
long as they don't frickin' write off any more movies, the ones that are in production we'll get to see.
Like, hey, we made this awesome movie and we're going to cancel it because we suck. But all right, we're officially done with the news. I think we got it all. Yeah. All right, I'm just double checking my notes. Okay, cool. So we are now going to talk about Superboy as we approach the end of season 1. First episode up, season 1, episode 21, Mutant. Clark witnesses the kidnapping of Professor Craig Lipcott, a famous nuclear scientist. As Superboy, he follows the kidnapper to a rooftop and sees them enter a strange ship just before he is attacked by a powerful ray that leaves him disoriented. What did you think about this? Because I really felt like this felt like just a bad episode of Star Trek.
Gotta pause.
So yeah, that's what I felt like. Because like the mutant, like it was a weird title to be called Mutant when they're like space aliens. And then she's like one of them, but she looks human. I don't know. Like I kind of got lost in this episode.
Well,
I was like,
she was the mutant because she wasn't. She didn't look like them. She looked normal. She looked like a normal human. So she was a mutant on her world. But she's like the ruler too.
Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah. It was really weird. Very, very 80s special effects. The pointing the fingers and just zapping people's minds. Had the circle, the little rings, the ring effect. It was funny. TJ just trying to talk his way out of it. That was pretty hysterical.
TJ, who I keep wanting to call Jimmy.
Yeah.
But this is TJ.
Right. And
But overall, how did you feel about this episode?
I honestly thought it was really funny with a lot of those things, the things that I was talking, the things that I mentioned, and Superman flying across the floor. He was just laying on something, and they just like pulled him, and it was like, shoo, and he slid across the floor. It was hilarious. So I liked it because I thought it was really funny, but it wasn't very, very good.
No, I feel like it's overall a forgettable episode. like on the grand scheme of Superboy.
Even at the end, they did kind of like the look at the camera and wave thing, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that Chris did.
Yep. Right here. Next episode we did. This one I liked. The Phantom of the Third Dimension. Jonathan Kent is being stalked by a man with whom he fought alongside during the Korean War. As Clark, Lana, and TJ come to Smallville for a visit, Mr. Kent is lured to the Smallville hospital and kidnapped by this man. I like this one because we're back in Smallville. I think Stuart Whitman is a underrated Jonathan Kent. And it was more about Jonathan. It was about, the not as much addressed post-traumatic stress disorder,
Yeah.
So yeah. But I liked it. Martha was a little annoying in this episode though. Like just some of it wasn't the actress's fault, just some of the lines and stuff they gave her to deal with. I was like with the whole like Clark and them were in a car crash. And Jonathan's like, nothing happened. Well, it could be Lana and TJ, and then I didn't quite understand why we kept getting Lana and TJ were breaking Martha's dishes.
I don't know. I don't know why that happened.
I feel like TJ became that character. Like, we don't know what to do with this guy anymore. Just crap. We have to put him in an episode.
Right.
But yeah, it's I like this one.
Yeah, the stuff with Paul was really good.
It was directed by soon to be legendary director David Nutter.
David Nutter, yes. Yes,
we
it
know
was.
David Nutter's work. He shot pilots for such things as Smallville and Supernatural, and would go on to be known as the Pilot King.
Pretty much, yeah. He had one of the best records of pilots getting picked up to series.
Yes, he did.
I did call the his old buddy from the Korean War. I did call him Wish Charlton Heston.
Nice.
Yeah, I know I've actually seen that guy somewhere, but I couldn't tell you where. I'm sure he is a character actor. Probably seen him in random episodes of television shows here and there. I know I've seen him before, but yeah, that's what I got as soon as he appeared on screen and said, "Oh, look, it's Wish Charlton Heston."
You're like, oh,
maybe Timu Charlton Heston today.
Yeah. I feel like that might be the better foil here. It's still no scene from Wayne's World though. Gordon Street, yes, Gordon Street. So I like this one because I like I said, Smallville. I like seeing Ma and Pa, and then some bikers start hitting on Lana because every time that a woman's around, men are just horrible and despicable people that try to take advantage of them and run their mouths. So
yeah, they're always terrible.
Horrible.
Right. I did like in that fight where Clark got punched in the face, and then he was just like, he looked mad, and then he was like, all right, well, I'm going to fall down now, and then I'm going to grab you by the leg and throw you over your bike.
That was probably my favorite part.
It's very reminiscent of when he gets shot in a couple of episodes.
Yep. Man, we got a really good shirt rip. So for John Haynes Newton. So all right. Next episode we got is the Black Flamingo. An attempted excuse me, an attempted assassination of a senator leads Superboy to a mysterious nightclub. Okay, so when the biker shows up, did you immediately know that it was Superboy?
I felt like it was. I was like, is this going to be somebody else? But as soon as he started asking questions, I was like, oh yeah, that's absolutely Clark. It was a thought. I was like, is that Clark or no? Because he had like a mix of like a Rambo and a Cobra thing going on there
Oh yeah.
with the mullet and the beard and the sunglasses and the leather coat.
So yeah, I like this one because the brain wave like erasing their mind, and the only part I didn't quite understand was at the end of the episode, why did Clark still have the snake, and why didn't he just as Superboy return the snake?
I don't know. I'm not even sure where he got the snake from.
I know it's great though because he hid like the recording device and everything under the snake because nobody wanted to mess with the snake.
Yeah.
So I was like ingenious, but man, I like this one because it's a little bit different, and he eventually became Superboy at the end. Was this the one? Oh yeah, this one had the part that was laughing me where Clark goes into the limo and then changes in the limo and flies out the top of the limo as Superboy. But he's so slow at flying. Like someone would clearly see, oh my God, Superboy just came out of that limo.
Right. Oh, the biker nobody's ever seen before just climbed in that limo. Was he Superboy?
So,
and
then
it looked like a fun punk club, I guess.
Yeah, especially for the 80s. Like TJ with his dye-blued hair, trying to be punk, and Lana.
I did like how his hair was all real big and everything and up, and he hid the camera inside of his hair.
So, yeah. It was cool. The last episode we have is Hollywood. And I don't remember this one. This one was also directed by David Nutter. I didn't remember this from my first watch, but Professor Zugar invents a time machine and sends himself and Superboy back in time to Hollywood in the 1930s, 1939 to be precise. Superboy meets a famous actor, Victoria Latour, and discovers that she's being stalked by men who want to kill her. I feel like this one's really cool in theory. Because you're going back to the 30s when Superman was created, and I feel like he should have just went back to 38, and it should have been like a tongue-in-cheek kind of thing. He should have played up more of like the Clark in the comics, but he saves that actress, and that actress whose name I can't think of at the top moment. She's had a long career in television because I was like, I know her from stuff, and I looked her up. But Superboy tells her he's from Schuster University, and she's like, oh, there's no Schuster University. He's like, not yet, it isn't. And then, we have this random professor that we've never met before. And it drives me crazy.
Who apparently invents time travel.
Yeah. It just, and Superboy's all pissed about it. Like, oh, just get me home. And I'm like, dude, he just invented time travel. You could go back. He still doesn't know what planet he's from. He still doesn't know he's from Krypton. And what do you call it? It is just kind of crazy because he does all this, and then he gets sent back, and when he gets sent back, it's him, TJ, and Lana are meeting for this woman that nobody knows, this old actress who left all this money to Schuster University, and it's her. And we see a picture of her and Superboy and Clark because they found, like, they've known, he saves her from these thugs, as Clark, and falls in love with her. But then he he is like super like mean to the professor guy. And I'm just kind of like, I wish they had more of returning characters.
Yeah, he's mean to the professor, but Clark is macking again. Like, like how many different women has he kissed this season?
Oh, I know this Clark's a smooth man, dude. This is the Clark you want to be.
Right. I did like how he was dressed like George Reeves.
Yes.
So he looked a lot like George Reeves Clark Kent.
But that's the episodes we have. One more piece of news here. Supergirl is halfway through filming. It's approaching its halfway point in its production. Directed. So I just think we need to. It'd be really nice to get a suit reveal, something of Supergirl. Would be awesome. But it would also be awesome if that's what we get in Superman the film as it is.
Yeah. Superman the film, Comic-Con, something.
Well, I mean, the Comic-Con will be like the week before or right around the same time the movie comes out.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's all I got for now. So
yeah.
But James has got to bounce. I'm gonna go save some people, and I'm just gonna talk for a moment here. I did read the All In Power Girl, just because we mentioned it earlier. Power Girl issue. And all I'm gonna say is it's so confusing and hard to understand at times, even when you're reading it, because like the last issue she talked about, she's Karen, but now she's back to Paige and having these identities, and the cover art's great, but then inside the art's okay. But she's back to like these thigh-high blue boots and a one-piece swimsuit looking outfit with long gloves and her red cape. So she looks more like traditional Power Girl that people has made fun of and talked about. But I do like that, Natasha Irons is in this book. So I do like when they kind of subdivide the super family. But she's another girl, it's another character they're just not sure what to do with. And I don't know. Like, it's just like with Supergirl getting her own title, it's nice. Power Girl has her title. And I was really digging it. But this issue just felt almost like a step backwards with Power Girl. So, but what are your thoughts, people? Like, that's about all we have. James has to go and save the world, and we'll catch up on comics more next time. We'll let some back build up, and we'll have a longer discussion. But that's what we got, and remember,
Look up in the sky!
Thank you for checking out the Krypton Report. Please click our link tree in the show notes to follow us on your favorite social media platform. We have a $1 Patreon, just $1 a month to keep us going. And in return, you get exclusive shows and specials. If you want to join us on an episode, send us an email or a message.